Okay, class, this is going to be chapter 4 of the book. Now, chapter 4, in terms of my videos, I've split in half. The first part that we're about to do now looks at the idea of mandatory and voluntary practices in forming or directing a company to be ethical. The second part is an analysis of how we understand how these conditions, be they voluntary or mandatory, impact on the company and how we evaluate that. Okay? And hearkening back again to the concept of the business as a living and breathing organism, we're going to look and see what the environment that the company chooses to exist in is, and then how does it react to that environment. Okay? So, first off, let's talk about voluntary practices. These are what the company does to be ethical. Okay? In this situation, right, it's the company deciding to do it, so compliance by the components of the company, including its people, is desirable. The failure is the loss of goodwill. In other words, the company's projecting an image of ethical behavior. If it achieves it, people think good of it, so it gets goodwill. Failing to do that, though, it gets bad will or it loses goodwill. So what does the company do to achieve compliance with these voluntary practices? Well, the first thing it has to establish the practices, so it's going to engage in ethical activities. This is what we should be doing. In order to do that, it's going to come up with a set of core principles. In other words, this is the principles by which we will operate going forward. We're going to educate our people about it. We're going to make sure that they follow those principles. And that gets to the next one. In other words, maintaining the ethical culture. In other words, not only are you establishing what the culture is, okay, and training your people about it, but you're cementing it in place so that it remains the culture of the company as it goes forward. Now, let us contrast that for a second with the idea of mandatory compliance. Mandatory compliance, for lack of a better expression, is when a government or a governmental entity now places on the business certain strictures so that the company will behave in a certain way. Okay? Now, that's an immediate contrast to voluntary compliance, because voluntary compliance is the business looking outward. Okay? This is an external force being placed on the business. Okay? So, when we discuss mandatory compliance, what are we discussing? The first thing we're discussing is a required compliance. The company must do X. The government requires it to do something. Okay? And normally, the failure of a company to do it might result in jail or monetary penalties, or, for example, an injunction where the company is told it must do it, and they just take the company over and they do it. Okay? These are all options that a governmental entity might have. Okay? Now, what are these civil and criminal laws requiring the institution to do? When a law is drafted, that's a key aspect. What are we trying to do? And how do we draft the law so that it achieves that result? Well, the first thing you might be doing, and any one of these might happen, there might be others, but there might be a combination of them, is you might want to try to foster regulated competition. In other words, you don't want one company to get an unfair advantage over another. Now, this translates to antitrust laws, okay? They're all required, you know, two telecom companies want to join together, they go to the Department of Justice. Department of Justice looks at it and says, yes, it won't have an impact on competition, you may join together, or yes, there will be, and you'll be prevented. That's an example of mandatory ethical compliance. You might want to be protecting consumers, right? That was the regulations that were put in place under Dodd-Frank. You want to make sure that when people get a loan, they can actually pay it back. You might want to promote equality and safety. For example, you might want to make sure that the Lilly Ledbetter law, right, that all individuals are paid the same amount. Okay, laws that protect the LGBTQ community. Again, you put in a mandatory compliance on the company that it might not otherwise want to do in order to achieve a result. OSHA, safety requirements. Again, you're putting an ethical and a legal requirement on the company to protect its workers. Don't put them in harm's way unnecessarily. Well, finally, you might be wanting to foster transparency. You might not trust the company or that institutions within that category of companies to always disclose everything. They might want to be trying to hold some things back. They might be using a lot of corn syrup, for example, and you don't want that because it makes people gain weight and causes diabetes and all the healthcare issues that go with that. Or they might have follow GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, but you you can't follow what they're doing because it's so obfuscated between so many different divisions. And you're trying to create transparency by saying, no, if you're going to be in this industry and you're going to be bidding for X, Y, and Z, you're going to have to provide certain information. So that's the idea, okay, that I want you to take away from this part, this section of the chapter. This idea of ethics can either be built from within or they can be foisted upon the company from the outside. Okay, that's part 1 of chapter number 4. In a second, we're going to come back with part 2 of chapter 4. And what we're going to discuss there is how do we analyze the impact of this institutionalized ethical behavior.